One, two, three, four.
I love all my friends. I love all my friends. I'm parking the car, turning off the lights.
Hello, you're listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. We are a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. This year, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've had to close our store and cancel in-person events. But Skylight is your neighborhood bookstore, and we are finding ways to create community even while we're far apart. In the coming weeks, we'll be putting out lots of new audio content to help you discover new books, connect with authors, and check in with your favorite booksellers. To learn more about how you can help keep Skylight alive, please visit our website at skylightbooks.com or check out our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening and enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the HANDSELL. This is the bookseller series on the Skylight Books podcast. I'm your podcast producer and host, Nick Kowaleski, alongside my co-host and all-around all-star.
Maddie Gobbo, events manager.
Yeah, Maddie, I think I'm just going to start giving you a new, adjective, like a superlative every single time we do this because my admiration for you continues to grow.
Oh, stop. Well, I am a Leo, so you know I love that.
Exactly. And this gets me brownie points, so I'm going to keep doing it. So how have you been? How have you been since we last talked, Maddie?
I've been okay. I've been, there's been a lot going on in the world. But things are changing at the store a little bit for good from my point of view, which is that I've gotten a new staffer on the events team, which I'm really excited about, and I get to go back to working in the store 2 days a week, which I was just so lonely and depressed and isolated, and I really miss just putting my grubby hands on books all the time. So I'm very happy about this. I know that working in the store now is very different from working in the store in the olden times, but you get a little bit of that back. You get a little bit of the community and the book smell and the things that make it worthwhile to continue being a bookseller despite it being an incredibly unfinancially sound career choice.
Right, but book smell, that's a perk.
Book smell. Well, not necessarily for me. I know for some people. For me, it's touching books, touching kids' books in particular, because they're so pretty and always have good illustrations. And I am maniacal about organizing the children's section. I haven't gotten to do that in months. So
wow,
I'm really looking forward to doing a full alphabetization.
It's just been Elisa maintaining over there.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Wow, she's drowning. Got to give her a hand. I'm glad that you're back in the store just for that. You mentioned that it's different working in there from the olden times. How is it? Can you describe what the changes have been?
Yeah, so in olden times, we would have had our main store open and our annex for all of our art books and graphic novels and things like that. Right now, the annex is still not open to the public because we're using it as kind of our shipping center and order processing center. So it's kind of like our mini warehouse, which is nice because it's quiet over there and you can very easily social distance, but we don't have quite as many of the really cool, kind of hard to find artsy stuff accessible as we normally would. So that's kind of a bummer. And then of course, in the main store, we've got all these plexiglass barriers up around the register and around the back desk, and everybody's wearing masks and people have to use hand sanitizer when they come in. And it's very hard to hear people when they talk to you with masks on.
Yeah.
But I think apart from that, the same people are still shopping at Skylight. You know, our regulars have all stuck by us, and I think because we've been kind of an early adopter of online events, we've kind of found some new customers through that. So the store feels busy, which is both good and a little bit unsettling again, because
Yeah.
our ventilation system is not great.
Yeah.
But we're doing everything that we can to make sure that it's a safe experience for everybody. You know, this is the reality of living in the United States in 2020, is that you do everything you can and still you can't be sure that that it's enough, that everyone's safe. So there's always just like a little bit of sort of like low grade anxiety buzzing
Of course.
in the background, but I think being with people is just tremendously helpful. Being able to talk to coworkers and to customers and people on the street. Just like the few times that I've gone into the store up until now, like, have rescued my mental health in ways that like I could not have anticipated. Like, I felt like massively better after spending 8 hours working in the store, just because I got to, you know, get out of my own apartment and talk to people who aren't my partner, who I love, but, you know, we see each other every day, all day long.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that are different, and, you know, we're having to kind of like constantly rework our processes because everything is different now. You know, we are taking a much higher proportion of online orders and pickup orders, so we've had to really increase our processing capacity, which has been rough, you know, because we're just not an Amazon warehouse. And just trying to think of ways to highlight books and make sure people know about books, and that people who maybe can't afford books right now still have access to books. There's a lot of different kind of projects in the works that we're trying to continue the work we would have been doing as a bookstore anyway, but with kind of extra, you know, COVID support. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. As safe as it can be and as good as it can be. That's kind of like the tagline for businesses this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss that community. I still haven't been in the store since the quarantine started, so a little envious. Thank God I actually work with a coworker, or I live with another Skylight staffer. Otherwise, I'd probably be going insane too. I'd be breaking down the door. Yeah. Well, I'm
But
glad you're back out on the floor.
You and Ben are just like hanging out and reading together quietly. I love that picture of you in your little cozy apartment.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. But yeah, so we've got a pretty good HANDSELL main event today. Could you tell us a little bit about that? What do we got in store in the coming minutes?
I have a conversation with John Evans, who is one of the wonderful owners of Diesel, a bookstore, which has a location in Brentwood and another in Del Mar. He is a co-owner with Allison Reed. John has been around in the bookselling industry for a long time, and he's very wise and very thoughtful and has some really beautiful views on the bookselling ecology. He talks about it as an ecology rather than an economy, which I really love. We kind of get into that quite a bit. And then he also, the original reason I invited him on was that I saw Diesel had posted a GoFundMe that they're raising money to help cover their rent through the end of this year, because they're in Brentwood, at the Brentwood Country Mart to be specific. They have incredibly high rent, and their landlord just hasn't offered them any relief, so they're just trying to hang on. And so hopefully we can send some donations their way and keep them in business, because they're a really important part of our LA bookstore ecology, and we would be really sad to lose them. So you can check that out. I think Nick's going to post the GoFundMe link in the description here to make it easy for you.
Sure am.
And I hope you enjoy the conversation me and John had, because it's more about kind of the philosophy behind bookselling and why we keep doing this, and how we keep doing this under these kind of impossible conditions. And it feels really on point and relevant to conversations that we're having across a lot of different industries right now. So yeah, I recommend it, even though I am the person who made it.
I recommend this thing that I made and you are currently listening to.
Yes.
Well, before we get to that, Maddie, can you tell me what you're reading lately? So I do want to know.
Yeah, so I think the last time we talked, I was in a reading funk, and I was just feeling like I hated books, and I was over it, and I didn't care about stories anymore. I go through this cycle every couple of weeks, and it's been cycling faster and faster with the pandemic, where like 1 week I'm like, I'm swearing off books for life, and then a few days later I find another book that I like, and they're all redeemed.
Well, this one first. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've gone through that cycle very recently, and I just yesterday picked up a galley of a translated novella by Marie Ndiaye, who is, I believe she's South African. I don't want to make this is another thing I should have researched before. Oh no, she's French.
She's French, okay.
She's French, and the book's called That Time of Year. It's out from Two Lines Press, and it's fantastic. It's really eerie and uncanny, which is, like, as some of you listeners may know, extremely my shit. It's about this city man, this Parisian man, who with his family, they spend the summer in this kind of rural, idyllic village, and they always leave by September the 1st. And the book opens with the year that they decide to stay one extra day. And everything goes wrong pretty much immediately. It starts to rain. Our protagonist's wife and daughter vanish, and he goes through a series of increasingly bizarre interactions with the locals, trying to figure out what has happened to his wife and daughter. Where are they? Why is everything suddenly so different the day after the end of the summer season? And I'm really enjoying it, first of all, because it reminds me a lot of one of my very favorite Shirley Jackson stories, which is called The Summer People, which has a very similar premise and does not end well for for the city people who stay.
Shirley Jackson?
Yeah.
Doesn't end well?
And also, it just, like, I just really love stories that kind of deal with a narrator who is kind of a dummy, like, who just doesn't really, like, grasp the implications of, like, the situation they're in and how weird it has gotten. And that is certainly happening here. Like, it's quite funny in addition to being scary. So I am excited to see where it goes. I had a hard time sleeping last night, so I read the first 40 pages, and I think I'll probably be able to finish it today because it's quite short, which is another one of the things that I look for in books, that they're short. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading right now. Mick, what are you reading?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned a novella about sort of a dummy, because I just finished Otessa Moshfegh's first book, McGlue, which was a recommendation from Ben. I have a pretty big pet peeve of, and this is kind of a trend in contemporary fiction, of novels that have characters who are obsessed with books or have writing adjacent occupations. I think it's very navel-gazing and, frankly, masturbatory. So I looked to Ben and I said, Ben, all of these books on the shelf, they have books, and they're books about books, basically. They're books about people who love books. And I need a break. I need a break from that. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
But now it's gone.
Okay.
Do you want to take that again?
Yeah. So I was looking at our bookshelf and I said, Ben, there are too many books here that are books about people who love books. Do you have any books that you can recommend that do not have that? And he gave me McGlue, which is a novella about a sailor in, like, the 19th century, I want to say, who has amnesia, like short-term amnesia, and people say his crew says that he killed someone, but he can't remember this. So the book is just about like this sort of like moron sailor who's trying to remember whether or not he killed someone. And it's short. It's like 130 something pages, and it contains 0 references to other books. And it was exactly what I needed at the moment. So
I love McGlue. I think honestly, like, this is maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think it's the best Moshfegh book. It's definitely like the purest and most distilled disgustingness, you know, that like
yes.
that she loves.
It's amazing.
He's also just completely like blind drunk
Yes.
for the entire novel.
Yeah, I should mention that is the short-term amnesia that I'm talking about. It's really just a blackout.
I think he also has a head injury, but yeah, he's
got a crack in his head. Yeah,
he's not
that's where the
together.
gross stuff comes up. Yeah,
yeah.
He's not all there. He's not all there.
But it's such a fun read. Like the language in that book, I remember being like very visceral and like really giving me shivers.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I'd like start like retching, like like reading it, because he's like starts fishing around in the crack in his head, and like
oh god,
it's kind of like a little body horror-ish, and I'm like in a good way, you know, like it grosses me out in a good way. So yeah, definitely high recommend, and also agree with your take about it being the best Moshfegh. I haven't read all of her, but of the things I've read, this is definitely the best one that I've enjoyed it the most, I'll say.
I'm glad you validated my opinion. I have read all of the Moshfeghs. I am a Moshfegh fan, but I do think that McGlue is still such a banger. It's so good.
Yeah, it really is. It's so quick too. I knocked it out in like 2 days and could have done it in one if I really wanted to. But yeah, so I finished that and taking a break from fiction and reading Shane Bauer's American Prison. He was a reporter who applied to be a security guard in a prison in 2014 and wrote about his experiences there. And yeah, it's awful. So if this is a good book to read if you're trying to, or to recommend to someone if you're trying to recommend that we abolish the prison industrial complex. And if you've seen it's a good accompaniment to the documentary 13th, in the sense that it sort of really makes you realize that slavery has not gone away in the United States. It's just shifted to prisons. So definitely less fun, but still a really compelling, really good, and really important, I think, thing to read.
On that topic, I want to just put in a little teaser because one of the projects we've been working on at Skylight is book bundles, which we're calling book bouquets, and they're basically curated selections of books on a theme or a topic curated by Skylight booksellers. And one of the first bundles we're going to launch, hopefully in October, is an abolition bundle. So it's all readings about abolition theory, prison abolition, defunding the police, that kind of scholarship. And hopefully it will give you all something to sink your teeth into as we head into election season.
This
is going to be really rough.
Election season. Yeah, see if we can save off that fascism, see if we can do it.
Hopefully.
Find out.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Stave off the fascism. Yeah, well, that definitely look out for those things. That sounds awesome. In the meantime, though, let's get to our main event. Maddie, thank you for joining me again for another Handsell.
Of course, my pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Hello, lovely Skylight listeners. Welcome back to the Handsell. It's been a little while, but we're so glad to be back today. We have a great interview lined up for you. I am Maddie Gobbo, the events manager here at Skylight Books. And just a little bit about us, if you aren't familiar, we are a general interest independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. Right now we are open every day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we also do, you have to wear a mask though if you're coming in to shop. Just should want to emphasize that. We're all trying to take care of each other right now. And then if you don't want to come by the store, we can also serve you online at our website, skylightbooks.com. We do curbside pickup and shipping anywhere in the US. So check us out. All right, so today we are featuring one of our local LA friends, one of our fellow bookstores here in Southern California. Joining us today is John Evans of Diesel Bookstore over in Brentwood. Hi, John. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation, though I wish it was under slightly better circumstances, of course.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
But Diesel is a fantastic store, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to first tell our listeners a little bit about your store if they haven't been there, what you guys are all about, where you are, and what's going on right now.
Okay, so well, we've been around for about 30 years. We started out in the Bay Area in Oakland and Emeryville, and then we opened in Malibu, and now we're in Brentwood. On the west side, and we also have a store down in San Diego. So we've been independent booksellers, Allison and I. Allison's my partner and wife, and we've been booksellers since the late 70s, early 80s. Berkeley style, Bay Area style bookselling, whatever that may mean. And so fine quality independent bookselling, and very reader oriented. So the store has all subjects and new books only at this point. But of course, we've all been struggling, and you've been struggling, and everyone's been struggling with COVID-19. And so we also are now doing a GoFundMe campaign that we can talk about. But LA Times just did an article yesterday, which was a really nice article that they did. And we can talk about how to survive all this after 40 years. It's not an earthquake. It's not an earthquake.
Oh, good. I
After
was worried.
40 years of book selling. So
yes, bookstores are here to stay, despite things falling down literally around us right now. Well, I love Diesel, and I have to say Diesel was my local bookstore when I lived in Oakland. I used to hang out. It's no longer called Diesel, but I used to hang out there all the time, and Diesel is actually where I discovered one of my favorite writers, Brian Evanson.
yes,
because whoever was in charge of the displays had put his 4 catapult books face out, and I was like, wow, I gotta check this out. I gotta read this man. So thank you for introducing me to him.
sure. Our pleasure. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so obviously right now bookstores are scrambling to figure out kind of what our role is and how we're going to survive. And
yeah,
what does that look like for Diesel? What have you guys kind of come up with, and what have been some challenges that you're facing right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big challenge, of course, is COVID. But so we were open the whole time. I mean, we see ourselves, and we never got exactly total government sanction for it. But in various parts of the country, bookstores have been deemed by official sources as essential services. And we certainly felt that way about ourselves and think of ourselves that way. But not only that, we were reassured by what people did, as far as special ordering from the store and shipping, and the same kinds of things that you guys have been doing too. Curbside pickup and all of that. So then we didn't open our store for customers in Brentwood until 2 weeks ago, maybe. And even so, it's only one person or one group. It's a pretty small store. It's only 1,500 square feet. So, we're doing a lot of special orders still, and people are picking up mostly, but that takes kind of a full staff. So when you have 3 or 4 booksellers and you have 1,500 square feet, you can really only health-wise have maybe 3 people in there. Right. So that's the challenge, because so much of what our business is based on is the browsing and the people flowing in and flowing out, and the recommendations, and people that come to the Brentwood Country Mart just circulating through. So that hasn't been happening. So our sales have been down. They were down 75 to 80% in the springtime, and last month down 55%. We also have high rent. So very high rent at the Brentwood Country Mart, as you might imagine. So that makes it highly problematic.
Yeah, that is really hard.
Yeah. I mean, we've had situations in the past where we had percentage of sales leases, and I know some bookstores own their own buildings and things like that, or they have landlords that are in some sense like a percentage lease is basically like a partnership arrangement. If you're paying a certain percentage of your sales, then when things are good, the landlord makes more money. When things are bad, the landlord makes less money, right? But you're in partnership together. When that happens, when you have a lease like that, then it's much easier to weather through these circumstances, but we don't have that. So it's tough. So that's the hardest thing, I think. We've had great support from people, and people have responded to the GoFundMe too, but it's tricky.
Yeah, I saw that the GoFundMe is doing okay. It seems like you guys have already raised 100,000 out of your 400,000 goal, which is amazing. So congratulations on that. I know it's not everything you need, but that's an encouraging sign.
It is very encouraging, and so we're hoping that we can thread the needle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so how did the idea for the GoFundMe come together? I mean, I guess obviously out of necessity, but how have you kind of positioned this campaign, and what are you kind of offering to your supporters as thank yous or as kind of justification for this campaign?
Yeah, so I think most of the people, certainly the people that have contributed, get what's going on. They're projecting something like a third of all independent businesses will go out of business without some kind of government aid over the next 6 months to a year. That's a brutal statistic. So people get that. I mean, the main thing we're offering is continuity, continuity of service. And people, Dutton's was already lost here in Brentwood. And that was an institution, a cultural institution for all of LA, really. It was a destination store. And that's sobering when you lose the bookstore, when all the bookstores are closing. So over the last 10 years, bookstores have been opening and doing okay, or doing better. But for us, it's really a matter of making it through this next 6 to 9 months. And then we'll be okay again, in the sense that as sales come up and we can handle the future better than we can handle the last 6 months, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the indebtedness that we incur, just like keeping people on when we weren't getting the money, keeping the healthcare going, and people value that. Some people value that. So the people that see that as a virtue and respect the work that we do, as booksellers, we respect the work we do. The readers that shop at independent bookstores in general do as well. So they want us to continue to be available to them in all the ways in which we provide them service with regard to books. So
yeah, I really like how the GoFundMe kind of opens with the idea of bookselling as an ecology, that it's this system of people and ideas and exchanges, and it's always changing. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, and a beautiful way to involve your customers and say, this is a living process. Running this business, it's not just about sales. It's actually about this kind of more complex, interconnected thing, right?
Yeah. And we've always been that way. We had a phrase, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, that we used for the first maybe 10 or 15 years. When we thank our customers, we'd, in newsletters and things, we'd say, thank you for supporting the fragile ecology of free speech that independent bookstores help to maintain, right? I think that was it. I'm kind of wordy, so it can be like that. But we also, when we're training,
are wordy.
Yes, yeah. When we train people, new booksellers and things, we make it clear, the UPS driver, you often know the UPS driver more than you do your part-time employees, right? Because they're there absolutely every day, and they're there through thick and thin, and it's a lot of hard work, right? So knowing who that is and that they're part of the store, literally part of the store, that's part of the initial training. And the customers too, they determine, as you know, the stock that's in your store, the things you read, because you get recommendations from your customers, and that determines what you read and then what books are bought for the store and what Charles buys for your store and all that. So it's a reality, the interdependence, I guess the Buddhist interdependence of everything is an ecological concept. And it's something that when people say, oh, so you own diesel, so you're the one that makes that happen or something. And it's like, no, I'm the guy that's paying the bills, and I have to, run it as a business. But it's the booksellers on the floor, the customers that come in, the sales reps that sell us the books, the UPS driver. This is what Diesel Bookstore is. It's an entity beyond me that I'm serving, right? So
yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing about bookstores. I think that's the thing that keeps me coming back, is not that they're an exciting business. It's that you get to be a part of this big tapestry of people who care
Yes.
about books, and people who work with books, and that's so much more rewarding. I mean, obviously I would love $100 an hour wage or something like that, but that isn't why I do it. It is always because I get those connections, and that's what feeds me.
Yeah, my Allison says, my wife says, book selling is not a good living, it's a good life.
Yeah.
So
It feeds your soul. It doesn't necessarily feed your physical body.
yeah. And so some people have said, do you want partners or investors? And it's like, you don't want to be investing in a bookstore, really, except if you're doing it to be part of that life, right? And but as far as a return on investment, when you think of it as an investment like that, as a cultural investment, it's a different thing. So we're really cultural institutions that require the sale of books to survive. And so it requires us to do sound business practices and be very smart about the way we do business in the service of providing readers with all the cultural resources that we can provide, right? So that's the point. I always think we lose track of what businesses are for, what their social utility, cultural utility, and why we want them to exist. And so what the GoFundMe kind of thing does is it reorients people as to, is this something I value? Is it something I want to continue to exist? Do I recognize that under these situations, the terms of it are extremely challenging and threatening? And is there a way that I can help? So the things, every day's been a day of tears for Allison and I, and not grief, but just sort of like sweetness, because of my 6-year-old son just said, I want to give my allowance to Diesel so that it'll still be there, right? I mean, it's extremely moving, what people are saying and what they're doing and what they're wanting to do and how important it is. And we knew this before, the GoFundMe thing, people kept telling us we should probably do it. City Lights jumped right on that right at the beginning. They recognized that this was unsustainable for them, given the model that they have. And they're an international icon, so they asked for 350 or whatever and got 400 within 3 days or whatever it was. But we hate the whole idea of GoFundMe, even though we appreciate the ecology that that's sort of a part of. We did not want to do it until there was just no possibility for doing. So we were scrambling, trying to do every possible other thing. It's been an exhausting and rewarding 6 months, but it was clear as soon as the COVID thing, it makes everything clearer, right? I mean, don't you feel like the whole, just like the structural inequities of the society are highlighted and transparent right now?
Yes.
So the opposite, which is the positive role of certain kinds of things, people, actions, institutions, are highlighted. Like, how do we keep music going, and musicians, how do we keep all the cultural arts available and thriving? So it's part of that. But people told us that, and I'm sure they did at Skylight too, because it's a great store, how important it is. There are people that only came to the bookstore and didn't actually go to any other place, including grocery stores, like older people that would order in everything, but they would come to the bookstore to pick up their books, because we didn't do delivery. We did shipping, but not delivery. But it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming very clear to people that we're at a crossroads, right? That we can choose to go
Yeah.
towards supporting these things that we love, or we can let them die and be stuck in the world where, Amazon and Target and all of those corporations own everything, and we have no more spaces like this for kind of organic connection to grow. Everything
Yeah.
is just run by algorithm. I hate that future. I don't want that future at all.
No. I mean, what I always say about that is algorithms show you all your past choices, and independent booksellers show you your future ones. Like, who do you want to be is what we're all about. Like, what's the thing that's going to blow your mind next, given the things you tell me that's very different than what have people who bought what you bought too. It's sort of the opposite. A friend of mine once said, why do we always go for the lowest common denominator instead of the highest common denominator? I found that really interesting with regard to book selling, right? It's always like, whatever someone's taste is, take it that little step further. And it doesn't mean, higher in some kind of literary sense or some kind of, objective sense, but take their sensibility and expand it. And that's what people want when they're reading, a lot of people, right? Even if you like the reassurance of a particular style or a particular genre or a particular subject, you still want it to be expanding out each time.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea of like either replication or growth, right? That either you can keep doing the same thing that you like, or you can push yourself a little bit to be a little bit uncomfortable and try something new and expand.
Yeah.
And I do think that the people who care about reading now in 2020, who care about reading physical books, they do it because they want to grow and they want to see things that they haven't seen before. I mean, that's a gross generalization, but that's my sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
So what are the things that our listeners and your customers and people who care about books, what can they do apart from, obviously, please donate to Diesel's GoFundMe? What are the things that they can do to help bookstores and help kind of ensure that these cultural institutions that we care about stick around?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like what you were saying, that it's always the case that you vote with your dollar, right? That the personal is political, right? But that's true right now. Like, the world that you want, so many threats to so many things, they just won't be around, and will rue the day, that we don't have independent bookstores around. So whatever your local bookstore is, I mean, whether it's us or you or Romans or whatever, supporting them supports so much of the community. And there's the financial aspect, also the sort of multiplier effect of independent businesses versus either a chain or Amazon, certainly. But some of it is just weaning yourself away from the easy thing that is a mindless thing, because the mindless thing is also a political thing. It's also a thing that structures what our society is like. And a lot of people know that they don't really want to support Amazon in various ways, and that Bezos will be fine. We don't need to worry about that. But so when the other thing about COVID is that there's going to be all these structural problems. There's going to be shipping problems. There's going to be printing problems. And so all of those things kind of dovetail into like supporting Skylight or Diesel early if you're doing holiday shopping, and like now start getting those things. And people have started doing that. It's really interesting. They're consciously going, I don't want to deal with crowds later. I don't want to deal with that. The book that I wanted to get is no longer available. And I don't want to support Amazon, for a lot of people. So I think those are significant things. The other thing is gift certificates, right? Whether they're digital gift certificates, and give those to the people that are, your friends in New Orleans who are having a hard time with all the hurricanes one after another, the people all along the Gulf Coast. You can send them digital gift certificates from Skylight or Diesel or whatever. And that, just think about it. What is it that your gift giving is for, and how do you increase the value of your gift, right? Books are always a great gift, right? They're much longer than a movie. They probably have the same amount. And And they also have that, you're bringing this whole cultural resource from some other person's mind into the life of someone else as a gift. I don't know. It's a great thing. But think about that when you're giving gifts, and think of the local businesses and ways to bring them into that ecology.
Yeah, make yourself part of the network.
Yeah.
And extend it to the people you know.
And you know that then, like, the dollar you spend makes a difference in real people's lives. Otherwise, it's sort of abstract,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, $1 on Amazon goes pretty much straight into Bezos's pocket.
Yeah, it just also feels sort of empty, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've seen Diesel doing that I love is that you guys are doing an Ask a Bookseller
Yeah.
virtual event every week, right?
Yes.
How's that
Yes,
been
we
going?
do Ask a Bookseller, and we do Ask a Reader, and we have sales reps every week. We also have children's story time on Thursdays. Everything's pretty much at 11 o'clock. At 11's we have something, and it's also recorded. You can see it later. But if you actually wanted to ask a bookseller about anything, like what do they think are the best, imprints right now? What are the best small presses? Who are the ones that are most moving you? What is the most transformative book you've ever read in your life? I mean, we're into all of those things, and so questions like that. But then we're also interviewing each other, which is really interesting because we have the two stores. So we'll often pair someone from the Brentwood store and the Del Mar store who don't really work together. And so then they're discovering each other. And it's almost like a mimic of what it's like to be with a new customer, right? What is it you like? Oh, yeah, I like that.
Oh, I miss that so
I do too.
much.
It's so, well, you have people coming in, yeah?
We do. I mean, I personally am working full-time from home, so I don't get any of that. But yeah, people are shopping in the store at Skylight.
It is such a relief when we open the doors in Brentwood for people to come in. I mean, it's very exciting for them because they kind of get the store to themselves with the booksellers. It's pretty great situation. But those conversations are just, I mean, I don't think people realize, the depth. I mean, this is why I love bookselling more than anything, is the intimacy and depth of the conversations with a customer at any one time, whether that's helping them through grief, whether it's exciting them with new change, somebody coming back to reading after being in some kind of like becoming a lawyer or something where your reading is all super focused on certain kinds of reading. There are just so many, having a new baby, relationship stuff, all of those conversations, one after another, and it's so touching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's human, right? Like that's the part of bookselling that has nothing to do with the business. It's just that human connection and being able to offer another person something that they'll take into their life and make a part of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then something like Black Lives Matter, and all of the, we had a display in the window for this last since end of May. And people just, some people coming in tentatively, some people coming in angry, some people coming in hurt, some people just confused, and providing them with all of these resources to let them grow into the, and to a new understanding. And so many, it's infinite. I mean, the humbling part of being a bookseller is that every single moment you're falling further and further behind in your reading, right? Every second, that's a bookseller's experience. And we try and hide that from customers so that they don't experience the ontological free fall of being a bookseller. But it allows you to provide all these resources to sort of stabilize people as they're going through massive change, right? That reassure them that, there's that thing, misery loves company, but, people love company. You just want to be able to share with other people what your experience is and what your knowledge is. And I don't mean as a bookseller to a customer, but I mean as a customer or person relative to other people. And so that's been also very encouraging. There's so much that's been encouraging about bookselling for me. Allison and I were saying that I think the period from end of March into June when there was just a really small core group of people that were working in the store, was maybe our favorite time bookselling as a staff, as just like doing a lot of the hard work to make it possible for people to read.
Mm.
But I sorely missed the customers. That's been the hardest thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they're trickling back in one by
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to mention or talk about before we wrap up here?
Reading makes you more human. It just does. And everybody says so who does it. And they've done studies and stuff. So I would just encourage people to read more, because I think that's really good for people and good for the society.
It's a very good break from all of these screens that we live in now. I have to do it every day. I have to give myself an hour where I'm not looking at a screen. I'm looking at a page. I'm projecting myself into the page and not being recorded.
Yeah.
On the screen.
It's also a hate antidote, right?
Yeah.
So I think, the empathy part of it is really significant, and we need that civility. Yeah.
Right. All right, John. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today.
It's nice talking with you.
So, listeners, you heard it here. Go out and support Diesel. Help them stick around and keep building this great community out there in Brentwood and down in Del Mar. And keep doing the great work that you're doing. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for doing this.
All right. Catch you on the flip side.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylightbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.